Hey everybody, it is Justice for Comics. It is Friday evening. I'm going to be going over the Hot 10 comic list by CBSI. I also got a really cool book in the mail today. First appearance of a character. It's sort of my new mantra for 2020. I'm starting to try to accumulate some key appearances, stuff that's somewhat affordable, that's not crazy expensive. Obviously, the big keys I'd love to get as well, but those take a little bit more time, a lot more saving of money. So we had a huge storm down here in Tampa, Florida last night. I mean, that was one of the hardest rains I think I've ever heard. It was unbelievable. So, yeah, I went out to the yard today and there's debris all over the place, leaves, mulch everywhere. We had not only really hard rain, but pretty good wind too. So a couple streets over, there were neighbors posting on Nextdoor that they had shingles off their roof, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, once in a while in Florida, we get some really severe thunderstorms. I think a year and a half ago, there was definitely a tornado that came through, a small one. It wasn't a big one, but somebody else a couple streets over filmed it, and yeah, sure enough, it was a tornado coming right down the street, tearing off pieces of people's roof. So yeah, we had some crazy weather last night, and it's interesting now. The temperatures dropped. I mean, yesterday was pretty warm. We had that big storm, and now today it's definitely 10, 15 degrees cooler. So it's very interesting how that cold front comes in and it just brings crazy weather in. All right, we've got Cameron D in the house. What's up, my friend? We got JP Craig. Davenport, Florida. Man, where's Davenport at? That must be East Coast, right? Guess I'm not as familiar with Davenport. I think that's East Coast of Florida. I mean, Florida has a lot of comic book shops. Pretty much every major town or city has at least 3 or 4. I grew up down in Naples, Florida, and in most of my childhood, I think there was only one store. I think we had like one baseball card shop and one comic book shop in the entire town. So it was pretty limited. And if you wanted, in my era, when I was a kid, probably when I was early, when I was a kid, and my early teens, when I started collecting, I wasn't collecting. I was buying comic books, reading them, and I probably threw them away. I bought them at Circle K. We had a local little convenience store that I would buy them at. I remember doing that a few times when I was a kid. 7-Elevens probably on occasion. Walden Books. There was a bookstore in the mall called Walden Books. There was no Barnes & Noble at that time, at least not down here. So I would buy comic books, basically at those places. I don't think there was a comic book shop in Naples until, I'm going to say mid-'80s, late 80s maybe. Or at least I wasn't aware of one until then. So I started going to a comic book shop probably in the, probably early 90s, like 92, 93. When all that Image stuff was hot, I remember going to the comic book shop and buying Image books and stuff like that. So probably early 90s. But yeah, Davenport, Florida, I'm sure there'll be several. If I'm in a town in Florida and I want to look up comic book shops, I just go to Google Maps or my Apple Maps and type in comic book shops, and a bunch of them come up. It's probably your easiest bet. But as far as any really good ones, I'm not too familiar with Davenport, Florida. I think that's on the East Coast. I'm going to guess it's near Fort Lauderdale, maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong. All right, guys. I I know this is early. It's only 5:36, so I'm not going to probably have too many people tuning in for the live show. This is probably going to be more played on replay. But I will jump into it here. Let me share my page, my screen rather, so you can see what I'm looking at. And I'm already in the CBSI's website. Start off with honorable mentions. They didn't quite make the list, but there was a little attention on them. My Secret Romance, number 2. If I remember right, a lot of these early romance books in the 40s and 50s, I think Kirby did a bunch of them. I think Kirby actually drew several of them. I'm not too sure if Kirby did this book or not. Well, actually, it says Wally Wood did, so okay. But I know that Kirby did a few romance titles from Well, I think they were Marvel. It was considered Marvel back then. I know he did several of them. Let's see. Price is about $100 for a 7.0. A CGC 7.0 sold this week for $1,000 plus. Amazingly, there are only 2 graded copies of this book in existence. How is that even possible? Well, no doubt about it. It's interesting in the world of comic books. You have people that collect horror comics and only horror comics, so they're buying early EC, Harris. They're buying a lot of the comic book publishers that only made horror comic books, early 70s DC horror. And then you have collectors that only buy superhero comics. That's probably the most popular, right? Is superhero comic books, Batman, Superman, The Flash, all the Marvel characters. And then you have a form of collecting, which is these romance comic books, all kinds of titles for them. I mean, there was a bunch back in the day. You've got Western comic books. That's a whole nother niche that I know nothing about, and there's a lot to know in that field. There's sci-fi, early 50s sci-fi comic books, where a lot of people will pay crazy money, especially if the condition's in really good shape. Because let's face it, I mean, how many of those books are still even around, right? How many were even published back in the day, and how many of them survived till today? Probably a pretty low number. So I'm not surprised there's only 2 graded. I'm not surprised there's only 2 graded on the CGC census. That's probably a very, very low print run book to begin with, especially that has survived, 40, 50 years later. So My Secret Romance number 2. If you're ever at a comic book store or flea market, I don't know, pawn shop, and you see a bunch of old romance comic books, don't pass them over. They could be worth a lot of money, especially if you can tell by looking at them that they're older. Obviously, condition is everything, but that I would love to go into a thrift store or a pawn shop and see a box of old 40s and 50s comic books. That, maybe because it's My Secret Romance and things like that, people would think, oh, it's not Superman, Batman. No, I don't care about it. Obviously, pay attention, because imagine if you had that book right now in any grade. I mean, if a 7.0 graded sold for over $1,000, even one that's kind of in rough shape has got to be worth something. So it's a good thing to keep your eye out for, is those type of books, especially the older they are, the better. A little honorable mention is says a beat copy sold this week for $75, and then another, still not in great shape, sold for double that. This is not an easy to find foreign book with a Hughes cover that I don't believe is on any other book. All right, so I have no idea what this. I looked on eBay real quick. There's nothing for sale. So that's just one of those books that I guess if one ever pops up on eBay, somebody's going to try to grab it. So it's kind of like I think it's kind of like I've mentioned it before on my channel. It's rare books that rarely ever come up for sale. Justice League, the one that comes to mind for me is Justice League 41, the San Diego Comic-Con variant. It's just such a hard book to find. I look all the time on eBay, and maybe once a year I see one come up for sale, and it sells usually very, very quickly because there's probably a dozen or so hardcore rare comic book collectors that absolutely know about that book and probably check eBay all the time for it. So, for instance, I saw one maybe 3-4 months ago, and I already own one, so I wasn't really looking to buy another one. If I could find another one raw in a raw grade, for cheap, I'd definitely buy it. But this one was a graded copy. The only ones I've seen for sale in the last 2 years have been graded copies. I bought one of them, and the second one I told one of my subscribers to go take a look at it, and he ended up buying it. So that's one of the things. If you guys are a subscriber of mine and you want to communicate with me on a regular basis, message me on Instagram. Having me give you information is probably of value. I'm not all the time, obviously, but a lot of the times I can find stuff that a lot of people aren't looking for and don't know about, and there could be some advantages to having access to me on Instagram. So keep that in mind. Any of you subscribers, once in a while I find something that looks awesome and I'll let you know about it. All right, let's go back to chat. I don't want to ignore that. Cameron asked if I grabbed 5 Youngblood #1s back in the day. I was not a Youngblood fan. Even at that age, back in those days, I did not like the artwork of Rob Liefeld. I liked Spawn. I collected a lot of Spawn. I had probably 20 Spawn #1s. I don't have any today. I sold them all. Obviously, I should have kept some. I had the Walmart. In fact, I even had the Walmart. Walmart sold a 4-pack of Spawn 1 through 4 in a plastic sealed case. And if I remember right, I think they were all newsstand too. I can only imagine what that would be worth today. I had like 10 of them. Man, I should at least kept one. How stupid was that? But I sold them all to a comic book shop, and they paid me 3 times what I paid for them. So I made good money on it. But yeah, I had a lot of Spawn. I had a lot of Wildcats. I think Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane were my favorite artists over at Image. Trying to think of the other artists at Image that I liked. Mark Silvestri I liked. I think those were the 3 guys. Everyone else I thought was garbage. I didn't care for Liefeld's artwork at all. I didn't care for Jim Valentino's artwork. I thought he was terrible. I didn't care for Eric Larson's artwork at all. I thought it was terrible. I didn't buy anything that Eric Larson did. So yeah, I think it was just McFarlane, Jim Lee, and Silvestri were the only Image books I bought back in those days. What's up, Comic Kid 84? What's going on, my friend? We got Comic Games is in the house. Manny, the comic collector, he's always here. We got Marcus. Marcus, my good friend, is always checking out my live streams. We got Malcolm Giles. All right, guys, let me go back to the list. Number 10 on the list is Vision and Scarlet Witch from 1986. Number 12. So this was that the, I think that was, yeah, that was the last issue in the run. Sometimes the last issue of a miniseries doesn't get printed doesn't have a high print run. A lot of people don't pick it up. So sometimes they'll be worth decent money. A good example that comes to mind is Star Wars number 107. That was the last issue in that entire run of Star Wars from the 70s. And that book still sells for really good money. It was just low print run. A lot of people didn't buy it. Yeah, so it definitely was a more of a scarce issue to have. So that's probably part of the reason this book's on fire. And obviously Vision and Scarlet Witch Disney Plus series that's coming out. I think that's coming out later this year, maybe in the summertime. I haven't heard a release date, but there was a slight little trailer to the show during the Super Bowl. I did notice that. And it says it appears that people are thinking their children, Speed and Wiccan, might be in the show, as there have been tons of sales since Sunday. So that book, number 12, is on fire. It was a $10 to $15 book. It's up to $25 to $30 now, in that VF to near mint range. That looks like a tough book to find in high grade. It's a white cover, 1986. I mean, it's pretty old now. It's over 30 years old. So that might be a book that's worth grabbing. You might find that in a back issue bin. eBay, obviously, a lot of people will go to eBay to try to buy that, but I would advise trying to buy it this week because of this. Because if I'm doing this show, I'm letting people know, they're going to go look on eBay. How many other people subscribe and go on CBSI and are buying books based on what's on the hot 10 list? So, maybe give that a little breathing room before you go looking at buying that. But I think you got some time. I mean, I think you can probably, if you really want to own that, I wouldn't buy it this weekend. I would wait a few weeks when the heat calms down a little bit on that. Number 9 is Agret. I'm going to destroy the name on this. Agretsuko? Some anime-looking show. I guess it's on Netflix. They're doing a second printing. Of course, they are. Oni Press. I remember when Oni Press came out with Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty became instantly popular as a comic book. I think they 4th and 5th printed issue number 1. They multiple printed some of the issues after that. I wouldn't be surprised if Oni does the same thing here. I would expect this to go to a 4th, 5th printing, no problem. It does seem to be popular. It's nothing I would collect. So, I wouldn't have looked at that book and thought, oh, I need to buy that. That would have never happened. So that's not a book that I would buy. Having said that, I guess if I was walking into a comic book shop and I saw it on the wall for cover price, would I buy it knowing it's a $15 book? Yeah, probably. But I wouldn't buy it because I really want it. It's not the type of comic book I collect. But hats off to anybody that picked that up early and took advantage of it. That book's on the move. Number 8 is The Spire, number 1. Why is this book on the list? CBSI says there is no knock against this book, but I have a hard time including books like this, although they meet the criteria of a hot book. Boom published it, and it was optioned, so that automatically makes it a $20 to $30 book. Our wonderful Tim Walker pointed out how many times a Boom book has been optioned, but never sees a finalized product. So I don't like everything CBSI talks about because I think sometimes they're off on things, but I think they're right on the money there. It seems like every single independent book these days is getting optioned, which means nothing. That doesn't mean that it's going to be developed into anything. So just don't be one of those people that goes out and pays $20, $30 for a book that was literally cover price the week before. Just because there was a quick news, if you saw the news real quick and you went on eBay and got it for $5 or $6 with shipping, congratulations on the long term. Don't be one of those people that goes and pays $20, $30, which is probably going to be pretty close to the height on that book. As they said, very few of these ever get finalized into something on TV or movies. So just be careful there. Number 7. Now this is one that it did get optioned. It was optioned a while ago. So Magic Order, as soon as the comic book came out, it was already optioned. How do we know this? Because Mark Miller signed a deal with Netflix well over a year ago. And if you flip the back of the comic book over, it literally says Netflix right across the back. So you know that eventually Netflix is going to develop that comic book into a TV show, or at least there's the opportunity for that to happen. And that's all an option means, is that there's an opportunity that this property gets developed into something. So that's exactly what's going to happen with probably any Mark Millar published work right now. Is it could be a Netflix show at some point. Netflix signed an exclusive deal with Mark Millar, or Miller, how you want to pronounce it. And Magic Order, what happened this week is they announced the date, June 13th. It will be on Netflix. So we have a date now, not just news that it was optioned. That news came out well over a year ago. And now they've confirmed, here's the date of the of that TV show. So the comic book is one of my favorite from it came out in I think end of 2017. So it was one of my favorite comic books when it came out. I really looked forward to every issue. I thought it was a fantastic read. That's the Mark Millar that I like. Just kind of makes things interesting and surprises you, and he kind of leads you down this path, which every great storyteller should be able to do. But Mark Millar doesn't do it that often. I thought he did a really good job with Jupiter Legacy. I like Magic Order, but there's other books that I thought were pretty terrible. Huck was terrible. What's a couple other ones he did? He did Sharky the Bounty Hunter is terrible. It's not that, I don't see that ever being developed. If it does, it's going to do terrible. So there's certain books that I like that he does, but most of them are trash. A lot of his stuff I don't like at all. But Magic Order was really good. I thought it was a good, well-written series. Copio did the art. The art was fantastic. So I definitely see this book having some staying power. And for the longest time, you could buy issue number ones for cover price all day long. I mean, the print run's high. So the reason this book is on fire, the San Diego Comic-Con variant, is because it's only a 2,000 print run. Now, I have the exact same cover. I showed this on my Thursday night podcast or stream yesterday. I have the exact same cover as number 7, but it's a 1 in 100. So the one I have is only limited to 100 copies. And believe it or not, it sells for less than the San Diego Comic-Con. So I don't know if that discrepancy will ever be rectified, but at this point, my book, which looks exactly like the San Diego Comic-Con, it's the same cover. It's just in black and white instead of the blue cover. It doesn't go for as much money, and it's way more limited. So go figure. Who knows? Here they're saying, so CBSI has this incorrect. They're saying, we have heard stuff from Millar before, so tread lightly. They got it wrong. You go on Netflix website. They actually have a release of June 13th of this show. It's in production. It will be probably finished up in the next few weeks. So June 13th is the release date of Magic Order. CBSI did not mention that. Maybe they didn't have the information on time. I don't know. But that is the date, June 13th. That will be on Netflix. Number 6 on the list is Lois Lane, number 8. First appearance of the Kiss of Death. Generated some buzz this week. I looked at it. I could have bought this issue, and I turned it down. DC books have been kind of lame lately, and this seems like a very C-list character to me. I think in 3 or 4 months from now, no one's going to even talk about this character. So low print run. Yeah, it's a low print run because the book is terrible. It's not that good. Greg Rucka, I don't like everything he does. I think he's really good on Lazarus. I think he does a good job on that title. I picked up a couple issues of Lois Lane. It wasn't that good. I mean, I just didn't find it to be that compelling. Perkins is a good artist. He's not a bad artist, but yeah, you want to spend $15, $20 on that book, good luck to you. I wouldn't do it. I mean, maybe if you want to really own that, try to buy it in your cover if you can, but I would not overpay for that book. And she just is an assassin. I mean, she just, I don't know. It seems like a little bit of a ripoff from Elektra, is what it looks like to me. So I don't know. I wasn't impressed with the character. Number 5 is Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1, the second print, 1 in 10 variant. Going for $40 to $50 right now. I mean, if you're a big fan of Power Rangers and the Turtles, this book's for you. The print run's probably very, very low on it, so that's obviously one of the reasons the price on that book is a little hot right now. I don't love either of those properties that much, so that's nothing I would put money into. But yeah, congratulations to anyone that picked it up for around ratio, which is around $10 to $15. You did well on that. Number 4 on the list is kind of an obscure. I don't know what this is doing on here, but CBSI felt it needed to be number 4 on the list. El Sopravente, I can't even pronounce it. El Sopravente Hombre Arana, number 128. I mean, this is what is this a Mexican or Spanish variant? CBSI says when we last visited this book back in the summer, a raw copy had sold for an incredible $1,400. Well, this foreign grail is headed much higher as a VG raw copy sold this week for $1,900 plus. To me, that's stupid. Really? I mean, okay, I get it. It's rare, but who cares? It's a foreign book. I don't think foreign comic books. I mean, hey, the market determines price. Who am I to argue with the market? But if it's me and I have $1,900 in my pocket to buy a comic book, it ain't going to be that one. I can tell you that right now. It's going to be an older, bronze, silver age key that I've been having my eyes on for many, many years. It isn't going to be a comic book that I can't even pronounce the title of. So I don't know. I mean, that's a very, very niche market. I don't know. I don't even know why that's on the list. Who does that appeal to? There's 2 people that care about that are maybe even paying attention to these lists. I don't know. I don't get it. Number 3, Thor 372. Nice pink cover. Gotta love those pink covers. This is the first appearance of the Time Variance Authority, which I guess may show up in the Loki Disney show. This was a $2 book. Now it's $20. I kind of agree with CBSI here. Does anyone really care about this group? I mean, are you telling me they're going to be the next Guardians of the Galaxy or something? The Time Variance Authority. All right, so let's put bets on what the price of this book will be in about 3 months. I have a hard time believing it's going to be a $20 book, but hey, more power to you. If you have that in your collection, you probably didn't even know you had it in your collection. You probably own a run of Thor. You happen to have 372 in your collection. Unless you are a completist and just have to have every Thor book from a certain run, I would plop that puppy on eBay right now and unload it. All right, number 2 on the list. So I don't have a high opinion of this list this week. I mean, there's a lot of shit on here I just don't agree with. Number 2 is Journey into Mystery 622. Similar to number 3 below, this is the first appearance of Icole. Is that really the name Icole? I-K-O-L? Icole? That's a terrible name. Has shot up from cover price to $20, with people thinking Loki's opposite will be in the Disney Plus show. Remember the first rule of comic book collecting: villain spec rarely pans out. I think most villains don't do, unless it's a Doom, Mephisto. It's got to be a larger-than-life villain. Null, I think, is a good villain. It's got to be a larger-than-life villain, or somebody that really engenders fear and loathing, and that kind of omnipotence. Number 1 is related to omnipotence. Number 1. Let me go back to the chat before I go to number 1. God, this is crazy. Cameron D was a sucker for Rob Liefeld back in the day. I live with that shame. Cameron D, you should live with that shame, my friend. My God. He probably drew feet better back in those days. I don't know. All I know is everybody had 25 pockets on their costume. You know, for all the extra ammo that you need to carry with you, right? Everybody had a gun, and you need those pocket all those different pockets to store the ammo. All right, Manny says, be careful overpaying for Lois Lane number 8 or number 7. Those books are already trending down. They're already trending down. Yeah. I mean, I think Lois Lane number 8, which is the hot book that's mentioned this week. I think the B cover looked pretty cool, but the A cover by Perkins, I don't know. Something looks weird about it. Lois Lane's face is all, she's got the rock. Doesn't she have like the rock? Yeah, she's got the rock eyebrow going on. So it's a little Dwayne Johnson. Maybe Perkins did a Greg Land where he just copied half the face off of a Dwayne Johnson photo. I don't know. She's got the old the old raised eyebrow. She's smelling what something is cooking, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so that's a book that I did a hard pass on. Hey, we got cardstock variant in the house. Welcome, my friend. Cameron D says, yeah, that comic book, that Mexican variant Spider-Man comic Tom has been hyping for a while. There you go. I think Comic Tom owns a couple copies, baby, and he's trying to pump the shit out of that so you can unload it. Maybe he owns 3 or 4 copies, and he continues to pump it so that he can sell his copies online or something. I don't know. We also have Chosen One Lando. Any hype behind Joker's New Girl punchline? I guess I don't know. Punchline, is that in the Sean Murphy series? I think that's the Sean Murphy, isn't it? I think that's what you're referencing. The Batman White Knight. Is it the White Knight? Curse of the White Knight? I think that is what you're referencing there. I'm not too sure. I haven't really heard any buzz on it. I know when that White Knight series that came out a year or so ago, that other Harley Quinn character, what was her name? I can't remember her name. That book was hot for a little while. I bought a couple extra copies at cover. So, in case that book ever blows up, I have like 4 copies ready to go. So far, I don't think much has happened. I think it's like a $15 book, but it hasn't really done anything. But yeah, so let's get back to the list. Last but not least is number 1 on the list, which is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, number 28. So this was a book that was mentioned definitely by a YouTuber by the name of Jim's Comics. And most of you know who he is. I'm a good friend with Jim's Comics. Yeah, he told me about this book. Yeah, I guess it was 2 years ago. It's hard to believe it was that long ago. It is a low print run book. There's supposedly around 6,900 copies only in existence. I do own a copy of this in my collection. It's funny is I saw that there was some early movement on Instagram about this book, so I went on eBay, and there was a couple copies for sale, and there was a guy asking like $25, and stupid me, I tried to make an offer at 20, and he declined it, and it instantly sold to somebody else. So I should have bought it. I mean, it was only $25, and right now it's definitely $50. I don't think you can buy it under $50. So that's kind of a stupid mistake on my part. I should have bought at least a second copy of this. I don't think I would have flipped it. I probably would have just kept it a little longer term in my collection, but I don't know. I mean, is this going to be a villain that's going to command big money? In my opinion, no. I don't think that this is a villain that will be worth near as much as Null. And I think right now it is. Technically, first appearance in Null, I think you can still buy, I think it's maybe around the same price, $50 to $60 for Venom number 3. But I will say this: Venom #3 had a much higher print run than Moon Girl #28. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is a terrible comic book. The art is shit. The writing is terrible. There was no reason to buy this book other than it had a new first appearance of a character. The only reason I bought it was because my good friend Jim texted me and said, hey, go buy this book. I think it's going to blow up. And I think I paid maybe $10 for it. I didn't pay cover price. I paid over cover price for it, but I didn't pay much. It was maybe $10 I paid for it. Obviously, I'm glad I did it. He's been right. It's shot up in value, but it shot up in value because of Jim's comics. Remember, he has over 8,000 subscribers. So a book that only has 3 or 4 copies on eBay, and he mentions it and spends 5 minutes talking about that book, what do you think is going to happen that week? If I talk about it, nothing's going to happen because I don't have that many subscribers. I'm at 700 and whatever, 700 some subscribers. Jim has 8,000. So think about it. Out of those 8,000 subscribers, he mentions a comic book that he knows there's not very many listings on eBay, and he mentions that comic book, hey, go out and buy this comic book. Yeah, it's going to be gone. He's going to move the book. So, you know, he has power. I've been telling, you know, he's very humble about that too, by the way. I talk to him all the time. He kind of knows he has some power. I think he knows that he can move a book, but he acts very sheepishly about it. But he definitely can move a book. You know, if it's a low print run book that doesn't have a lot of copies for sale on eBay, and he decides to spend 3 minutes talking about it and why this is an important book, you know, it's going to go. So that book is on fire because of Jim's comics. That's why at the end of this, it says, based on some speculation given by some guy named Jim. It's not, okay, yeah, it's speculation. It's speculation that, whatever the character's name, I think it's Impetus. He can't get an erection. I think his superpower is he can't get an erection. Impetus. Empty tome. I can't remember how to pronounce it. It's a really stupid fucking name of a villain. It's the dumbest name of a villain I've heard forever. It's dumb. It's a stupid fucking name. It's Impetus or Omnipotence or something. It's something stupid. You can't pronounce it. It's pronounced several different ways. I don't know. In my opinion, this is not a book that will be worth a lot of money long term. I'll tell you what. If you've got plenty of copies of this Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #28, I think you should trade it. Do a flat trade for Venom #3, because I'm willing to bet you Venom #3 long term will have way more value than Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #28. I don't care what the print run is. It's a stupid character. The villain, it's not a great villain. It's a stupid name. You can't even pronounce. Watch the videos of Jim trying to pronounce the name. It's hilarious. Omnipotence, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I own the book, and I just think it's not. I don't think it's worth $50 plus. I just don't think it is. I don't think it's a character that has any staying power. It's got a terrible name. It's a terrible name. Why is Dr. Doom a villain that lasts? Because the name is fantastic. Null, fantastic. You got to have a good name. A name that you can't fucking pronounce, and you're going to tell me that that's going to be a villain that anybody's going to care about 20 years? Don't see it. If you have multiple copies of this book, sell it. Put on Instagram, hey, I'm willing to trade this book for a Venom #3. That's what I would recommend that you do. I just don't see that. I don't think it's a villain that is going to be worth anything long term. That's my opinion. I own the book. That's just my opinion on it. The reason I'm not willing to trade it for a Venom #3 is because I have 15 copies of Venom #3, so I don't need another copy. But yeah, it's a book that if I had multiple copies of that book, I would trade it all day long for Venom #3. So I don't know. I don't think I can explain it any better than that. But it is the dumbest name of a villain I've ever heard of. Omnipotentus. I think that's how Jim pronounces it. Omnipotentus. Omnipotentus. That's the name of the villain. I will guarantee you right here, that villain will never, ever, ever fucking be in a Marvel comic book movie. It'll never happen. Never. If he is, they'll change his name. That'll never, ever happen. So if you want to spend $50, $60, $100 for that book, $275 for a 9.8, more power to you. I would rather spend that money on a book that I know down the road is going to be worth money. I have no confidence that that book will be worth anything. I mean, maybe it'll be probably long term. It'll be worth about what I paid for it. I'd say $10, maybe $10 to $15. But right now, it's a $50 book. If I had that second copy, I would absolutely flip it. I'm probably going to keep one long term just in case, but my confidence is not high that book. So I know I ranted long enough about it. All right, guys, I'm going to show you the comic book that I got in the mail today. Now, this is a book you should try to buy if you can find a really good copy. This is a nice key book. It's an X-Men book. I know there's a lot of X-Men fans in the house. Man, I looked for this book for a couple weeks, and I finally found the copy that was high grade enough for me. It presented well, and I just got it in the mail today, and the pictures, it was spot on. This book is in very, very high grade. It's unbelievable. So here it is. I got X-Men number 96. This is the first appearance of Moira McTaggart, who they've been using her, obviously, with the House of X. They used her quite a bit in that upcoming series, in that last series that came out last year. It's also the first appearance of the Brood. And, man, is that not an awesome cover or what? Look at that cover. I love this cover. So this is a book that I'd say normally in this grade is easily $175 to $200 range in this grade. I got this for $120. So I got a really, really good price on this grade. I mean, I objectively looked at this thing. It's easily, I would say it's a 9.2 to 9.4, no problem. It might be a 9.6 if it was pressed. There's a little bit of wrinkling up here, not wrinkling, but just a little bit of something that could be pressed out up here. Just in this one section. So if this was pressed, this would easily be a 9.6. Easily be a 9.6, which means this is at a 9.6. If this is a CGC 9.6 book, this is, I mean, last time I checked on eBay, I think this is like a $400 to $500 book at 9.6. 9.8s are probably really hard to find in this book, just because of the age. It's early 70s. You know, X-Men 94. It's only a couple issues away from X-Men 94, which is which is a pretty significant book. Just a really cool book. I love yellow covers, background covers. I just think they present really, really well. And I mean, I'm telling you, this thing has no spine ticks. All the edges are sharp as hell. Yeah, I'm going to conservatively grade it between 9.2 and 9.4. If it got a pressing, this section over here, that's just has a, you can just tell when you look at it in glare, you can kind of see that, oh yeah, there's a little, little indentation. That could be pressed out easy. So if this was pressed, which this is not pressed, so that's one of the reasons I bought it too, is the seller advertised it as an unpressed book. So it's never been pressed. So if I press this book, I'm pretty sure it would come in at a 9.6. But this is definitely one of the books I wanted to get for this year. I wasn't planning on buying it this soon in the year, but it was such a good price. That's one of the reasons I bought it. I looked at it. I looked at another copy. There was another copy for sale that was very, very close in condition as this. It was on Etsy. I think it's probably still there. It was a little lower price. It was a $100 book. The only thing I didn't like about that, it had no spine ticks. It looked, all edges were sharp like this. But at the top of the book, it was a little faded, like the yellow was a little faded. And I didn't like it. And that was probably, had nothing to do with who owned it. It was probably like a color, a lot of books that come off the press. Back in the day, maybe the ink, the yellow ink kind of faded at the end, or it was at the end of a roll. So that was probably just a printing issue. It had nothing to do with condition. It wasn't, because it wasn't sun faded. It was just, you could tell like the ink, the yellow ink was lighter at the top. That was the only problem with it. And I thought about it. I talked to Marcus about this. I thought about it. I was like, yeah, that one's in really good shape too, but it's $23 less or $20 less. I'll pay the extra $20 to not have that fade. So I got the book I really, really wanted. I don't think I'll ever regret owning this and buying this. Just a really cool looking book. So yeah, I'm hoping near the end of the year, I'm going to do a recap video. That'll be on the recap video of my top books for the year that I purchased. Yeah, you think about it. I paid $120 for that book, and there's people spending $275 for that Moon Girl in a graded slab. I think you're crazy. I think you're fucking crazy. For you to go buy and spend $275 on a Moon Girl number 28, a very modern book, right? This book is almost as old as I am. It's fucking old. And you're gonna go spend $275 on a book that was produced 2 years ago for a villain whose name is Omnipotentus. I wouldn't do it. I'm coming to you with some wisdom. I've been doing this. I've been collecting for a long time. I don't think every deal I do is perfect. I make mistakes like anybody else, but to me, that's an obvious mistake. Going to spend big money on Moon Girl 28. I just wouldn't do it. I'd much rather use that capital for a key book or an older book that's 30, 40 years old and high grade. I mean, how many high grades old X-Men books are you going to find 5, 10 years from now? I'm telling you, this is the time to scout for these books. Go out and get these older X-Men books, first appearances, something that's key with the book, or buy some bigger runs. I just bought a run today of X-Men in that 160 to 170 range. So I'll be getting that in the next few weeks, and I'll highlight that. And and high grade, they're all high grade. So that's what I'm doing this year. So you can do what I'm doing. Spend a little bit more money on the older stuff that's in high grade. Let's see who's in the chat here. We got Perry's Comics. What's going on, Perry? Perry says, listen to the old man. He drinks whiskey and tastes cigars. That's right. You should listen to your elders. It's good advice. I think that was written somewhere in an old book back in the day. I'll make a straight trade with you, my Squirrel Girl number 1 9.8 for that X-Men book. I'll have to do a hard no on that. You could probably give me every single issue of Squirrel Girl ever produced, and I wouldn't give you. I don't even think I would give you the latest X-Men issue for all those. I'm not a Squirrel Girl fan. Marcus knows that about me. Perfect. Good job, man. Yeah, my opinion is if you want to own that in your collection long term because it is a first appearance of a character, a villain, perfect. Own it. You got a good price on it. You should feel happy right now. It's a $50 book that you paid $15 for. If you're not in love with the comic book and you don't really care about the character and don't really care about owning it long term in your collection, go make $40 profit and go buy something that you really have your eye on, or go buy an old X-Men book. That's what I would recommend. But yeah, he's asking, the only reason it's so valued is the 6,500 print run. Yeah, that's one of the I think the print run's really low, mainly because Moon Girl is not a good book. The print run is low because it's not selling. So whenever people say, hey, why is the print run low? Usually print runs are low in independent books because they can't afford to print more. Because first of all, they don't know if a book's going to do well or not, right? So they'll do a standard, like Boom Studios or Aftershock. They'll do a standard maybe 5,000 to 10,000 print run. That's it. Marvel will do a low print run if they know a book isn't selling. So, I mean, Marvel tracks that pretty closely. They're not going to print 30,000 copies of Moon Girl number 28 because they know it's not going to sell. So they do a low print run on purpose because the book does not, they know by pre-orders, right? All they do is the Marvel representative calls up Diamond and says, hey, how many pre-orders do you have for Moon Girl 28? And they'll say, oh, we've got 1,000. That's it. So then the Marvel guy will go, 1,000? That's it? All right, let's just print. We'll just print 6,000 copies then. That way we got enough for stores, we got enough for pre-orders on Diamond, and that's it. So that's how they determine the print run. They literally call Diamond and say, what is your pre-order on this book that we've slotted to print? Because they don't print it until like the month of, usually a couple weeks before they issue the book. That's how quick it is. And they'll call Diamond up and say, hey, what's the demand on this book? And Diamond will say, yeah, not 1,000 copies. That's it. So that's why the print run's low, because no one's buying it because it's not a good comic book. But that's what also creates artificial value too, is, oh, hey, there's a character. I got to get that first appearance. There's only so many copies on eBay. There's a lot of people that own that comic book in their personal collection, and they're not going to sell it. So you've got maybe a handful of people that bought multiple copies. So when you're buying one off eBay right now from somebody, it's somebody that has multiple copies of that book, and they're like, shit, I paid cover price for this. Someone wants to pay me $50 for that? Done. So that's the reason. Old art, he'll throw in an old Archie. Some of those old Archie books are of value, no doubt about it. I don't care for it, but there's people that collect that stuff, no doubt about it. Yeah, he goes, Sean says it was low because it wasn't selling. It's selling now like hotcakes. They eventually reprint it if it becomes important. Yeah, they could always do that. Marvel could, well, at this point, they wouldn't do a second print. What they would do is they would put it in a True Believer issue. They'd either do a facsimile or a True Believer, and then there's your pure reprint. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they did that just to kind of capitalize on it. Manny says, yeah, Miss Marvel has a low print run because it's straight garbage. Yeah. So some of that Miss Marvel stuff's gone up in value because, oh, it's the first appearance of Star, and all of a sudden that book's doing well in the aftermarket because, yeah, it doesn't normally sell well. And Marvel is not going to print a bunch of copies just because they're introducing a new character. It doesn't work that way. They literally base every issue based on pre-orders and what the book's been selling at previously. So, that's the reason the print runs are where they're at, because there aren't enough people that care to buy it. Yeah, you got it, Sean. Supply and demand, man. That's what it's all about. If the demand's not very high, neither will the supply. It's kind of like a lot of those store variants, right? So you got to be careful of those store variants. Some of them, they don't limit it. They, if it doesn't say, hey, the print run's only 500 or the print run's only 2,000, what's the print run? As many people that want to buy it, they'll sell it to you. So, that stuff is just probably not going to do well long term. Be very, very cautious on store variants and on some of these things that I just don't think long term are going to be of value. So I was a little aggressive tonight in my stream. I think I kind of hammered I definitely hammered Moon Girl number 28 pretty hard. Nothing against Jim's comics. I mean, Jim's doing his job. He's identifying a character that could be further developed by Marvel a little bit better. I just think it's a character that shouldn't be. It's a villain that shouldn't be developed. I think the name is terrible. So I would say if that book gets up near, I don't know, I have one copy, and if that book gets over $100, I'm probably going to sell it. I'm going to probably sell it and take that $100 and go buy, put that towards a key older book that I really have my eyes on. So that's my opinion. Hey, that's it, man. That's what makes a market. We all have our opinions. Marcus is asking, but why is the character hot omnipotentus? I think Jim had mentioned, you'll have to watch his channel, go back and watch his channel, but I think it's his last episode. He mentions the character that he may be the Black Winter that shows up in the Thor run, Donny Cates. So Galactus is afraid of another villain, and he calls him the Black Winter. And Jim's comics thinks that the Black Winter is going to be omnipotentus, which no doubt, if that is the case, the book will spike in value. But I'm telling you, long term, a character with that name, and maybe it'll be worth money because now he's known as the Black Winter. I don't know. It's just, to me, it seems. I can just tell you right now, if that book goes over $100, I'm probably going to unload my copy, and I have a high grade copy too. So I don't know. That makes me think maybe I should go get it slabbed, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 9.6 or a 9.8. So hell, if someone wants to pay me $250 to $300 for a 9.6 or 9.8, I may have to go get it slabbed. My copy's the high grade too, which is not easy to do with Marvel books because they use such cheap paper. But hey, that's it, guys. That's my show. Yeah, Sean, I'll say one last thing. Sean says, yeah, but nobody thought Guardians of the Galaxy would be popular, or Rocket Raccoon or Groot. I mean, those names aren't too bad. I'm telling you, omnipotentus is never going to be in a freaking movie. It'll never happen. I'm willing to put my reputation on the line for that. That one isn't going to work. I'm just telling you. Oh, look at this. Ian Baldwin says Dr. Manhattan is the Black Winter. Ooh, I like that idea. That sounds very interesting. But Dr. Manhattan, that's a DC character. So, Ian, initially that sounded like a great idea. Maybe he can cross over to the Marvel Universe, but I don't think DC would allow that. So it's probably going to be a no-go on that. And Sean says, yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of the Jim specs. They often flare out fast. Yeah, I mean, he some of his stuff long term, I mean, he was all over Null when it came out, and he was dead on that one. So some of his stuff, definitely, you want to pay attention to his channel, because he definitely can identify some value. But some of that stuff is going to be, quick flip, the quick flip type of thing. And I think that this is the case of quick flip. So I don't think there's long-term value in Moon Girl 28. That's my opinion. Jim's comics, he may think differently on that. I just don't see that being a big book long-term. So I would, if you can get over $100 for a raw copy, or $300 for a graded copy, I would sell it. So I'm going to think about that for myself. I mean, I've got a nice grade, nice raw copy that's in high grade. If the prices are, I got down the street here that will get it graded for $20, and I'm pretty sure I can make a good profit on that book. If I can get a 9.6 or 9.8 grade out of that, somebody wants to pay me $300-400, I'll sell it to them. I'll take that money and go buy a really nice book that 20 years from now we'll still be talking about. I don't think we'll be talking about omnipotentus. Just my opinion. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. It's 6:30. I've got to end my stream here. I got some things to do this evening. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. If you haven't already, like and share my videos. That helps me grow my channel. I'm growing, but growing kind of slowly. I probably need to do a better job of marketing myself on Instagram and things like that. I don't do a lot of that. But I do appreciate everybody that supports my channel. And if you guys have suggestions for me, things you want me to talk about more in these live streams or in the chats, let me know that. I love getting feedback from everybody, so I definitely encourage that. And it is Friday. I hope everybody has a great Friday and a great weekend. I am heading over to Orlando with the family, enjoy some recreation. And so I don't know if I probably won't have a video out this weekend. I'll try to get one on Monday. Probably do the cover price video on Monday. I don't think I'll have time tomorrow, but look for that next week, and I'll talk to you guys soon.